What's going on, guys? My name is MrHurriicane, and this is the edited version of my Minnesota Dynasty Season 1 off-season live stream. I always like to make one of these videos after an off-season stream for those that can't watch a longer stream or don't have the time to. And so, these are the highlights from the off-season, and I'm showing some stats right now. As we close out Season 1, we went 6-6 in the regular season and lost the bowl game to Temple. And now we prepare for the Season 2 transition, as I'm pretty excited to see how this offense is in Season 2. Devin Crawford-Tufts, Isaac Frichte, and Andre McDonald were a 1-2-3 punch in the passing game that I really enjoyed, and I think is going to be a lot better in Season 2. Defense is going to be very different, though, because we're graduating 6 of 11 starters, and a lot of new guys are taking over, so we'll get more into that with the recruiting aspect and setting all that stuff. But here are the bowl results from the end of Season 1. Of course, we lost the Heart of Dallas Bowl, but the national championship game was won by Texas A&M and Heisman Trophy winner for the second time, Johnny Manziel, knocking off Ohio State. And with Ohio State being a national championship team and the other great competition in the Big Ten, it just shows how much work there is to be done for Minnesota if we're going to be one of the top teams in the Big Ten in coming years. So here it is, guys. We're going to move on to Season 2, players leaving, some key graduates, as well as Jalen Myrick transferring to UAB. Rashid Hagman is going to the pro draft. He was projected to be a third-round draft pick. And we graduated some key players like James Manuel and Aaron Hill, but now recruiting. Most of the recruiting class was already finalized, but it's time for one last attempt to get some talent. And there are some very good players left on the board, including Maurice Manning, who was one of the top-rated players on the overall draft board that I was looking at. So out of these last 6 guys, I really wanted to get Maurice Manning, Steve Randolph, and Chris Porter. Those were the guys that I wanted the most because we were graduating Rashid, obviously, and then Brock Vereen at safety. I was trying to get good replacements and some depth built up, especially at cornerback, because we graduated Baltazar and Shabazz. Next year we're graduating 3 more corners, so the roster turnover in the secondary is going to be huge in the coming years. And I ended up taking Jason Haas off the board because we did not really need another tight end. I had already got the one committed that I really wanted. But from here it was just figuring out how to balance out these points, because I really wanted Maurice Manning, but I also had to figure out how to try to get Steve Randolph and Chris Porter. I had a big lead on some of these guys, and I wasn't sure how much of a cushion I could be comfortable with, but we'll see here on signing day. Who are the final commits to the Minnesota Gophers? We were able to get Maurice Manning, John Meyer, and Matt Smith. So I only got 1 out of the top 3 that I wanted. Steve Randolph is going to the national champions in Texas A&M, and I don't even know what Chris Porter's doing. I checked the recruiting board again, he's just sitting there. He couldn't pick a team, I guess. So we got a very good class still, but I did not get Steve Randolph, who was kind of one of the key pieces that I really wanted to get. He was a hard-hitting safety, and he was a late season gem that I became very excited about. I wanted that guy really bad, but we didn't get him. And now training results, where we see how much better the existing players got. And our junior quarterback, Philip Nelson, goes up 5 overall, including 4 to throw accuracy and 1 to throw power. At halfback, Donnell Kirkwood is now our highest rated player on paper, and I was pretty happy with him in Season 1, although the ground game was very inconsistent at times. We'd have games where he'd go for 100 easy, and then struggle to get like 40. At receiver, I'm very excited because Crawford-Tufts, Frichte, and McDonald were already pretty solid in Season 1, and they're all going to be here for next year. And we're also getting redshirt freshman Jubal Atarski this season as the number 4 wide receiver. John Christensen, our center, very solid in the middle of that line. And I thought that we actually had a decent line going into Season 2. I didn't really recruit offensive linemen because we had other positions that I thought really needed to build depth and to replace some starters on defense especially. So I didn't focus on offensive line in Season 1. However, I will in Season 2. And here you're seeing some of the replacements that we're going to have for those graduating starters on defense. You're not seeing the new recruits yet, but you are seeing guys like Devondre Campbell, who will be a new starter at outside linebacker. He junior has very good speed. In the secondary, Derek Wells and Breanne Body Calhoun will be the starters on the outside, and Marcus Jones in the nickel. It's a very new-look defense in Season 2. It's going to be very interesting, including Cedric Thompson at strong safety. And we even have a brand new kicker, a redshirt freshman. Here are the top-rated players now on our team. Donnell Kirkwood tops the list at 88 overall, and our 3 top players are all very key on our offense. following all the recruiting and we get some walk-ons on our team, you have to cut a few players, and we only had to cut 3, so it's going from 73 to a 70-man roster. And we had this dual threat quarterback from Florida as a walk-on sneak onto the roster, and so I wanted to keep him and just redshirt him and see what he develops into. We end up cutting Joe Henderson, a walk-on strong safety, making it 2 more cuts to go. Hendrick Ekpe, I had to cut him. We have way too much defensive end depth right now. And the final cut was outside linebacker Nick Rallis, and that brings us to the 70-man roster. And following that, I realigned the Big Ten Conference to be how it's going to be next year in real life with the East and West divisions. I added Maryland and Rutgers, and you'll see that affects the schedule upcoming. As we look now at the redshirted players, I redshirted Andrew Johnson, that 4th quarterback in the depth chart, and I recruited 2 running backs I was very excited about that I wanted to be building blocks of this offense, but it's not time for them to play yet, as we have Donnell Kirkwood, Roderick Williams, and Berkeley Edwards, whom I don't think I've really seen play much, so I redshirted both of those guys. It's kind of a patience process on offense because I don't really have a lot of room for the guys that I recruited to play right now. So Doug Duckett gets redshirted as well, as Jewel Atarski is no longer redshirted, and we have some depth there to work with. So Duckett will be here next year to play. And then at defensive tackle, I decided to keep Maurice Manning not redshirted because I was worried about a player of his caliber possibly transferring for playing time after the first season. And I think that he can make a big impact anyway. As a matter of fact, he's going to be a starter in Season 2. At corner, 2 of the recruits that I picked up are going to be redshirted for next year. Sam Graves will play as the dime back. I redshirted the strong safety Andre Gaines, and that finalizes the redshirting process. As here you see the schedule, and we begin Big Ten play in Week 2. We play Mid-Tennessee State to open up the year. We have a non-conference game in the middle against New Mexico State, and then late in the year, we have Missouri from the SEC. This was the default schedule given to me, and I decided to roll with it because I like the non-conference schedule. A couple easier games with Mid-Tennessee State and New Mexico State, as Big Ten play is already kind of hard enough, so I like the schedule. We're going with that. And here is a little sneak peek of the recruiting for Season 2. This is the preseason recruiting, the first part that I did on the live stream. There was actually a 5-star wide receiver that had his first interest as Minnesota. I looked at everybody who had a top 3 interest in Minnesota, and there were quite a few quality players, including a lot of offensive linemen that I wanted to kind of narrow down to a select few that would be great additions to the roster, and there were some options on defense. It was really cool seeing all these good players that were interested in Minnesota after Season 1, including Larry Arnold from Colorado. Is it ringing a bell yet, guys? UTSA Dynasty fans, remember Fred Arnold, the middle linebacker who decided to go to Colorado after soft committing to UTSA. And was the reason we got Dominic Carter. I think we just found his brother, and he's also debating Minnesota or Colorado. So Larry Arnold is on our board, as here you're seeing some of the accessory changing I made for some of the new players, some of the recruits, and new starters, including Dan Smith, outside linebacker, along with Devondre Campbell, who will play on the opposite side. Sam Graves, whom, this was default here. He's got, you know, the red sleeve and the white sleeve. Maybe that's his thing. We kept it that way. And then Drew Wolatarski, who was one of the best players I redshirted last year, and he's still going to be kind of buried on the depth chart, but he's going to have an opportunity to play this year. And because of him being no longer redshirted, I now have 4 wide sets in the playbook. I didn't have any before besides maybe the Hail Mary formation. I added a 4 wide ace formation and 1 or 2 4 wide shotgun formations. So we're going to spread it out a little bit more when we can this year. But that is it, guys. The offseason is a lot shorter in NCAA 14 than prior games. Recruiting is much quicker. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video for those that don't want to watch the whole stream or don't have the time to. Anyway, Season 2 is up next. Week 2 will be the opening of the year. We have a first week bye, and then it's opening the season against Mid-Tennessee State. That concludes the offseason. We begin Season 2 next. And so let me know in the comment section, who are you most excited to see this year? Out of new starters or just a new recruit that's going to be playing this year? Who are you most excited to see? Season 2 opens up next episode, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. Have a great day.